Yo, what's up, guys? This is Why Not Be Reckless, aka Why Not Be Casting, and I'm one of the HCS commentators, and we have another HCS weekly report where today we're going to be talking about Rostermania Part 2, at this point, maybe Part 3 or 4, and we're also going to be talking about the JJ Events $2,000 event, which sported teams such as Eunited, G1, Faze, Leftovers, Oxygen, Fnatic, and plenty of other teams that competed for not only a decent-sized prize pool, but for momentum going into the Eunited Grunt Classic, $25,000, and then eventually Orlando, which is right around the corner. You guys don't realize at the end of the month, we're going to be having Orlando, and then the month after that, we're going to be having Worlds. We're at the tail end of our HCS season, so let's jump right into it. Where today, we're going to start off by talking about Eunited bringing in Snipe Down. This was a huge move, a move that we kind of talked about before. I broke it a little bit when they were scrimming with Faceless Peak 69. We now know that to be Snipe Down. During scrims, Optic had referred to the Smurf as Eric multiple times, and eventually actually called him Snipe Down one or two times. So it was probably the worst kept secret. But Eunited, made up of YNOT, Rain, Suspector, and now Snipe Down. YNOT, not only an amazing IGL, not only a big brain for the for actual being the chess master in the game, but then on top of that, you have somebody who really knows how to slay with the best of them. We're talking about free-for-all phenom, and as much as we already talk about how much he makes those nerdy plays, we don't talk about enough how much damage he deals, how he's able to stay alive, how he's able to make plays. There was one just yesterday where he out BR someone from top nest all the way to the mud side, then ninjas boo boo doo boo in the same play. The transition was seamless, and it was a play that only YNOT could make. Next up, we're going to talk about Rain. When I talk to the pro players, oftentimes they talk about Rain being one of the most underrated players in the game. There's plenty of those that we're going to be talking about soon here, but Rain's communication's on point. So when he's popping off, him and YNOT as the duo, there's baiting and switching, they're doing their thing, and they are so tough to deal with. Rain rounds out this roster so well, and he's been a duo with YNOT for so long, it'd be weird to see them separate. Suspector, who I have as one of my underrated players, and I would probably even go as far to say top 5 underrated slayers, and really not based on him outgunning everybody on the map, but him based on staying alive and using his movement to be so crafty and to demand so much attention on the map that the enemy team is focused on killing him despite him being one shot and maneuvering around the map. He's able to pick apart weak players while staying alive and then distract the enemy team for the rest of his team to push up and to get into defensive stances. This Suspector's the real deal. And he's a large reason why Eunited are able to play that slow and steady style of gameplay, because Suspector will distract you. He will stay alive. He'll be a nuisance, and it just allows the rest of the team to get into their positioning. And then obviously Snipe Down, who was dropped from that Faze roster, but I think this was the right move for everyone. I'm going to talk about that a little bit, because the playstyle that Snipe Down needs is exactly what United's blueprint are. Play the game slow. Lock down every single corner. Squeeze your opponent and play damn near perfect Halo. You risk a lot to play United's playstyle because you can barely make any mistakes in order for you to succeed, but United are able to make it happen, and we're going to see how they performed in the JJ events. And let me tell you, you guys are going to be surprised, but either way, United coming out hot with this roster, and it's going to be exciting to watch them from here. With Snipe Down coming in, it leaves Manny without a home. Not too long ago, Eunited and KCP made that trade to send King Nick over towards KCP and then bringing Manny over to Eunited. Clearly that experiment not working, and it looks like Native are going to take advantage of that, because Native bringing in their second roster of Native Gaming Red, Talik, Soul Snipe, Druck, and bringing Manny back home. It was largely reported, or at least rumored, I should say, that the team did not want to separate with Manny. They wanted to stay together. They wanted to work things out. They wanted to put in that grind, but it was org decisions between United and KCP to try to switch things up for two teams that were seemingly struggling, that needed an answer So they decided to swap players, so they made it to United and ultimately sending King Nick to Native. And I will say it was interesting, and I think it was a good experiment, but it didn't work exactly out for either one of those teams. I think now Native, but then KCP were still struggling a bit in the wins department, and the same for Eunited. You know, Manny's used to playing at 110 miles per hour. His play style is not conducive of the play style of Eunited. Snipedowns is. Native Gaming, they were struggling towards the tail end together. Talik, Soul, Snipe, Druck, and Manny. But maybe this is like a honeymoon phase. Even though you're bringing the team back together, you know, it's you don't know what you lost till it's gone kind of thing. I'm actually excited. I'm really excited. I really want to see Manny succeed with this Native Red squad, and I want to see them make moves over to going to Orlando and even beyond. Because coming into the early season, Native were doing their thing, and they were the ultimate dark horse squad. We talk about it often, where G1R right now is where Native Gaming were back then, and I think they can get back to full form. They're super aggressive, they're objective efficient, and they play the game a lot differently than other teams, and that pacing tends to throw a lot of teams off. Faze Clan putting Snipe down on loan to Eunited, by the way, which we're going to talk about that a little bit more. Snipedowne, technically still part of the Faze banner, even though he was dropped from the Faze Halo roster. And with that, created an open spot. So now we're completed. So now Eunited sends King Nick over towards KCP, now Native Gaming, and now Native Gaming sending King Nick over towards this Faze Clan. And I don't know, this might be his last stop, because Faze are back. And Faze need to be respected. King Nick coming in, and the moment he did, we saw a change in this mentality and in the results, from the scrims getting 10-2'd by Optic to then only losing out by 7-6, and even at one point Faze able to beat out Optic in scrims. I think it was 5-4. Formal obviously wasn't feeling well, had to end the scrim a little bit early, but Faze have been doing their thing since the moment that King Nick came in. And I talk about it often. We're not talking about individual skill. I'm not going to be disrespectful and say that Snipedowne was the problem with Faze, especially not on an individual level. At this point in time, we are talking about fit at this level of competition. And Snipedowne just didn't fit the mold that Faze want to play. King Nick does. And King Nick's willing to do the dirty work. And King Nick can also pop off at any given moment, which is exactly what Faze needed. We know what Renegade and Spartan to bring it to the table. There are main slayers. Falcated, I call him my. So you know, I talked about before. I talked about before when, you know, Talik is underrated going into his native roster. I talked about Suspector being underrated. The pros definitely always talk about how Rain are underrated as well. Faze have the most underrated player in Halo right now, and that's Falcated. And I know some of you guys are starting to realize this now. I was calling it back in Raleigh. Y'all starting to realize it now. We at the tail end of season 1, but I was calling this back in Raleigh. How amazing Falcated is as a slayer, but y'all didn't want to look at the stats apparently. Y'all didn't want to trust your eyeballs and see what happens when he's on the screen. It was tough because when he was on the screen, so many of other players would take up that screen time, and he still suffers that today. But it's funny, if Falcated don't give a damn, you keep the camera on Sparty, keep the camera on Renegade, keep the camera on King Nick. Meanwhile, Falcated off cam is just going to be doing his thing. It's going to be absolutely decimated the lobby because he wins his gunfights and he can play aggressive. He can get in your face. He's confident. There's a reason why Falcon and Shotzi were those guys, were that duo back in the days. That's because Falcon is the real deal. And so is King Nick. Faze were one of the teams going into JJ events, one of the teams that had so much to prove. And we're going to talk about that a little bit. During the JJ events, it was a $2,000 tournament. I think it was $1,250 to first place. But this meant a lot more than just money. this was about momentum going into United 25K event, about momentum going into Orlando, and your final stretch going into Worlds. Forget the money. Screw the money. The storylines are what sold this event right here. And thank you so much, JJ Events, for putting this on. It was absolutely amazing. I got to cast this myself. Me and Shyway did the final half of the tournament, and it was lights out. In the elimination bracket, Leftovers able to 2-0 Oxygen Esports. I think that was huge. That roster made up of Ace and Super CC of AIDS, Leftovers on their team, but now looking to become the main course. They played well. G1 2-0 Complexity. Lots of questions being answered there because both of these teams running so hot. Momentum high for both of them. Complexity and G1 Dark Horse teams going into Orlando. We had them both, guaranteed top 8. Both of them, I would say fighting for top 8, legitimately fighting for top 6, and then maybe, just maybe, pulling off a win against the Elite 4 to steal away a top 4 position. I think G1 and Complexity were both in that in that spot. And we needed to know who's better. We needed to see this matchup, and although it was a best of 3 and not a best of 5, G1 were able to mini sweep them, knocking Complexity out of the tournament. This is the elimination bracket. G1 then get the 3-1 over Leftovers, but Leftovers did take that game number 1 in dominant fashion, and I was starting to question some things, but eventually G1 come out on top, and then Eunited 3-0ing G1 the same way they were able to 2-0 them in the winners bracket, and there was a lot of questions there as well. You had Boo Boo Doo going up against Snipedown taking his spot on that Faze roster. Faze wanted Boo Boo Doo on the roster, but there was organizational difficulties. So there was a lot on the line there. Snipedown came out on top, though. Let me tell you, man, Snipedown played well, and so did Eunited. That 3-0 was real. And G1 get knocked out of the tournament in 3rd place. Not bad whatsoever. Eunited moved to the grand finals. In that grand finals, we saw a bracket reset. Eunited beating out Faze 3-1. And then Faze pulling the Uno reversal card on them and 3-1ing them when it matters most to become your champions. It was high energy. When we were watching this matchup, it was like a Dragon Ball Z episode. Well, you ever see those Dragon Ball Z episodes where they're throwing punches landing right on top of each other? You see the shock waves shake the earth. Everybody and their mothers looking out their window like, what was that? We can't even see what's happening, but we felt the pressure coming in. That's what it was like. Let me tell you, man, when Eunited and Faze meet up on land, it's going to be real. You got Snipedown going up against the Faze roster that APG talked about how Snipedown had to almost prove himself worthy of being on and just not having the right vibes to begin with. Snipedown even out of his own mouth saying that was the worst competitive experience that he's ever been a part of. And the weakest mentals, what Snipedown said, not me, he's called them the weakest mentals that he has seen in his gaming competitive history, which a damn long one. You have the long-time rivalry of YNOT and Sparty, first enemies, then friends, now enemies again on the virtual battlefield. This rivalry goes way past Halo Infinite and it'll probably go further. YNOT and Sparty are going to be fun to watch. 2 passionate players. They're not afraid to scream. They're not afraid to scream at each other. In fact, they've even gotten into each other's face at one point when Ryan got right into Spartan's face, and it took security to separate those two because we didn't know what was going to happen. And then you have, Spartan and King Nick, formerly of that Eunited roster, now on Faze, and now we're trying to figure out which duo is better. Is it the YNOT and Rain combination, or is it the Sparty and King Nick? Faze were able to get the best of Eunited, but it took 2 series in order to do it. Faze is showing us that they're the real deal. Eunited showing us that they're still being talked about for that top 4. And are they guaranteed it? No. But they showed us when they run hot, they can go at any team in the league. And that includes Faze. And that concludes your HCS weekly report. This was really exciting. I thought it was going to be a short one, but it was still a 15-minute video. Wasn't expecting that, but also wasn't expecting Faze and Eunited to go at it like they did last night. It was really fun. Guys, we do this live almost every day, twitch.tv/YNOT_B_casting, and then gets uploaded to YouTube right after the stream is done. This is a good one. This was fun to talk about. Rostermania is back, and it's created waves across competitive Halo. If you guys like this kind of content, let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you press that subscribe button, leave that notification bell turned on, because we're going to be doing this. I ain't going anywhere. Peace out.